Council are to be audio-visually recorded and streamed live. A link is available on the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council website to the YouTube platform, where the public can view the meeting live and watch recordings of previous council meetings. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and Regulation 33, these video-audio files will be retained by Council for at least 6 months and made available for viewing live as well as online within 5 days of the scheduled meeting. The written minutes of a meeting, once confirmed, prevail over the video-audio recording of the meeting. I welcome councillors, staff and members of the public and declare this meeting on the 25th of June 2019 open at 2:01 p.m. The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. All councillors are present and therefore no apologies. In attendance we have Mr Ian Pearce, Council's Acting General Manager, and Ms Turvey, Council's Executive Officer. I request elected members to indicate whether they have, 1, any interest, personally or via a close associate, as defined in Section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or 2, any conflict as described in Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors in any item included in the agenda.
Mayor, I'm declaring an interest in relation to item 7.4. I'll be vacating the room.
Thank you, Councillor Brini. No further. 2.1, Ordinary Meeting of Council, May 28th, 2019. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on 28th of May 2019 being confirmed as a true and correct record.
Somebody to second? Councillor Arnold. Open for discussion.
Mayor, when I went through it in the public question time, 14 of the agenda and of our agenda today, and
16.
and 16 of the minutes from the previous meeting. In section 4.2,
Hold on a sec. Sorry. Here. So we've got page 14 of the current agenda.
yep, and page 17 of the minutes,
Okay. Yep.
and 4.2, Mr. Wayne Murray. There was 2 questions in I, or number 1, and the second one was there was no answer to that. That's in the agenda, so that one got missed, I think.
Okay,
About
so you're saying that the second part to I
yep,
needs to be addressed at the next
Yep.
meeting.
yep, because there was no response in this agenda to that question, which was about the pipeline being laid across through the bird sanctuary.
Mr Pearce, would we make a note
We
there
will. So that's second part.
Yeah.
Yep.
to be addressed at the July meeting?
And 4.2,
In the agenda?
4.2, 4.2 in the agenda, page 15.
Yes.
Which was Mr. John Hancock's question, which is, I don't know, it's very confusing, 4.4 on page 18
Of the minutes,
of the
yes.
minutes.
This is
Um,
easy.
There was no response about the geotesting. Well, there was a response. Yeah, there was no. Well, can anybody see a response about the geotesting? Because I can't.
Ah, yeah. Okay, in response to Mr Hancock's question on part 2, the manager development compliance cannot respond to that until after the tribunal hearing next week.
Right, okay.
So, just to clarify then, that in the minutes, 4.4 and 4.5, is that right, is answered through the response from the Manager of Development and Compliance? Yeah?
Correct.
So maybe that needs to be written in there to make it clear that that is the response to both, because they're two different questions and it's just been sat under 4.5, so that would be better for you, councillor Brown,
Yeah.
you understand it better?
Yep. I think that's my.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. No further comment? Okay, so I put the motion, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Two point two, workshop held May 28th, 2019. That was a planning update and the 1920 budget discussions. And another workshop held on June 11th. The workshop agenda is there. That was on policies, the Mast Draft Marine Infrastructure Plan, Sonic Coastal Erosion, review of the terms of reference for the Prosser River Mouth Advisory Committee, Glamorgan Spring Bay Council bylaws, budget 1920, followed by a Community Connect session at Buckland. Recommendation there is that council notes this information. Item 3, under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, the Chair, I hereby declare that the council is now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for Section 3 of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move. The council now acts as a planning authority at 2:08 PM.
Councillor Bree, second. All those in favour? Item 3.1, AM 2019/02, rezone 23 Harvey's Farm Road, Bicheno. No planner? We'll see if there's any questions.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, could I have a motion, please? Thank you.
That as provided by the land use provisions of Section 3, Schedule 6 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, LUPA, A, pursuant to Section 34(1)B, Planning Scheme Amendment AM 2019/02 be initiated and certified as being in accordance with Section 30 and 32 of LUPA to rezone 11, 17, 17A, 19 and 23 Harvey's Farm Road, Bicheno, from light industrial zone to rural living zone, and B, apply to the biodiversity protection area to part of 11 Harvey's Farm Road, Bicheno, as detailed in attachment in this report. B, pursuant to Section 38 AM 2019/01 be placed on public exhibition for no less than 21 days, and C, pursuant to Section 39, if no representations are received during public exhibition, Council directs the General Manager to advise the Tasmanian Planning Commission in writing that no representations have been received.
Somebody to second. Councillor Churchill. Oh, yes, Councillor.
Mayor, could we have a specific time frame on it, on B? It says to be placed for no less than 21 days. Could we say for 21 days or for 28 days, so it's an actual specific
Sure. Yeah.
timeframe?
What
So
would you like?
my personal preference would be 28 days.
28, 4,
I
28.
agree, yeah, 28
28
days.
days. Councillor Wood?
Yes,
Happy?
that's, yes.
Councillor Churchill? So, do we have questions? Because we can locate the planner if we have any questions.
Other than that timeframe, that was my only question.
I'm fine. It's addressed all the questions by email.
Okay, so your questions have been addressed via email? Mm-hmm. Okay, so based on that, I will put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, I hereby declare that the council is no longer now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for Section 3 of the agenda. Councillor Browning?
I move that council no longer act as a planning authority at 2012.
Sure. Do we need a second? Councillor Simons? All those in favour? All those in favour? Unanimous. Public question time. Whilst we're here, we've just got a response to a question from Mr Pearce from the previous.
Previous. It's
Meeting.
to do with the construction work at Wacketts Creek Bridge. We were asking why the delay. The response we have from State Growth, and I quote, that there are some issues with the installation of the concrete piles, and it is anticipated that work will recommence back on site next week, with bridge works expected to be completed by September 2019.
So of course that's Salmons Strait, as we all know. Mr Bruce Press. Do you want the microphone?
Turned on, yes. I've been in this room a fair bit when it's been full of public and, of course, you councillors. I just wondered if we need an emergency exit because it's a long way from the front door on the event of a fire. I had a fire at my place in July in my home in Swansea a year ago, and I couldn't find the emergency exit quick enough. And this is a long way from the front door, so is there a possibility of thinking about an emergency exit for this particular room?
Mr Press, we'll have a look at that and see how it fits in the rules of, buildings and exits and so forth, but we will have a look at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question is, I noticed you received some recent media attention along with TasWater providing water at Coles Bay for the residents there. I've been providing water at Swansea for Dolphin Sands, Lake Leak and surrounding area residents for quite some time. Can we have a similar outlet in Swansea? Because I've just received an $8,800 bill off TasWater for providing free water to those people. I can't afford to pay that, so we need TasWater to provide a similar service for Swansea for those people who don't have access to town water.
Okay. I'll get your details off you, Mr Press, and we can have a conversation about exactly what's needed up there, and then we can follow through with TasWater.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5.1. Item 5, which is the information reports. They run from page 18 through to page 41. Does any council or have a question in respect to the information provided? No?
No.
I might just say on this matter, I think the reason why we probably don't have a lot of questions is because we've been having an awful lot of workshops. So, it's not as though we don't read the information, it's because we've had a lot of workshops going through many items, and I think, we know the answers. So now, the recommendation there is that management reports be received and noted. Item 6.1 is the Spring Bay Elder Care Committee meeting minutes. Could I have a recommendation, please? Oh, sorry, that council receives and notes the minutes of any section 24 committee presented. So, I've got something here. I received a call from somebody. It says here carried. It doesn't say whether it's unanimous or, by how. So possibly, Councillor Brenny, you're the councillor there. Would you be able to ensure that the minutes have, carried unanimous, or who was
Yes.
for, who was against, just in accordance with meeting procedures
Okay.
as per
Yep.
the rules? That'd be great. Thank
I'm
you.
also there as well.
You're there now on behalf of RSL.
Yes,
Yes.
And chairperson, yeah.
True.
You're right.
Could I just note, though, that each motion was carried unanimous, so there was no dissension.
I'll make sure that that's just a matter of course that we have it, how it was carried. Yeah.
Moving on to 7.1, budget estimates 2019-20 financial year. Could I have a motion, please? Sorry, Councillor Pike?
That council by absolute majority adopts the budget estimates as presented on the 25th of June 2019 for the financial year 2019-2020.
I have somebody to second that motion, please. Councillor Arnold. Open for discussion.
Okay.
I can just reiterate your statement regarding the management reports, Mayor. We've had numerous workshops in this, and I think we're all very comfortable with the budget that we've established for this coming year.
Yes, I agree, and we've only just workshopped it before sitting down here for this meeting. The point is, there is, for the purpose of the people sitting here today, I'd just like to say this. Council's position, referring to page 49, for the estimate 2019, shows cash and cash equivalent at the end of the period at $2.5 million, and that looks really good. And if you look at budget 2020 for cash and cash equivalent is 1.5 million. The difference between the estimate for 2019 and in 12 months' time is the 2.5 million we've got there at the end of this month is actually borrowings. It's borrowed money. It's not actually our cash. And that money mainly will relate to the Prossel Plains raw water system. So as a consequence of that, we've had to complete a very conservative budget this year and really live within our means, and we've had to increase our cash reserves. Well, quite frankly, we haven't got any cash reserves. We actually need to get some money in the bank. So as a result, the capital works that we're spending this year is down from previous years, and it's projected that we'll have $1.5 million in the bank as of June next year. So that's a push in the right direction and where we need to go. With the capital expenditure on page 50, it shows capital works of $2.7 million. Of that includes $1 million of grant funding that we got. So that means Without that million, we're spending $1.7 million on capital works. That's new and renewal works, you know, fixing up our roads, footpaths and so forth. We get money from roads to recovery of $401,000. So basically all we're spending this year of ratepayers' money is $1.3 million because that's all we can afford to spend. As a consequence of needing to get in more money, rates will go up by $95 per residential property, which is, Councillor Arnold, how much per day?
$1.82.
Per week, sorry, per week.
$1.82 per week
Yeah.
for the year.
It might sound a bit less if I say it $1.82 per week, but in reality it's $95 a year. Again, there was no choice but to do that. We will be doing a review of our operational expenditure in the coming months, by department, by line, to see if there's any cost savings we can make there. But at this point, it is conservative, but we're heading in the right direction. We needed to head in the right direction, okay? So that's probably all I can say on that, other than to thank Mr. Pearce, he came in to assist us during this period, and it's been a difficult period for him to come up to speed on our position, and then, you know, it wasn't an easy position to then work out what can we spend. So we thank Mr. Pearce for all his time and effort, and other staff that have assisted in this process.
Yes.
So, and yeah, again, we've workshopped this, and reality is what reality is, and the budget is what the budget is. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 7.2, adoption of 2019-20 rates resolution and fees and charges. Could I have a motion, please, Councillor
I
Arnold?
want it in two parts, Mayor.
Sure.
Would it be better if it was in two parts? All right,
Yep.
so I'll put the first part, that council by absolute majority adopts the 2019-2020 fees and charges as presented here in the agenda on the 25th of June 2019.
Except for the dogs, just
We
the
can
dates.
amend that in a
Correction.
minute. We'll amend
okay.
that next.
Yeah.
Somebody to second. Councillor Churchill. Open for discussion. Councillor Arnold, what do you want to say?
No, just,
The
no,
dogs?
just that we need to note that there needs to be some correction of the dates in the dog fees, from what has appeared in the document.
Yep, to take them through to the 31st to the 7th,
30th
19.
of
19.
July 2019.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I've got a couple, I've got one here, and I don't think we did workshop this. It's on page 53, and it's the green waste per cubic metre, $5. So last year it was recommended that we go back to zero to decrease the amount of green waste being dumped. And then this one popped up. And again, as I say, we didn't get to workshop this. I saw it in the agenda. I don't think we're going to get a lot of money in from that $5, and I think it could actually have a detrimental effect on dumping. And I'm hesitant to put forward a price when we're throwing a match into it in most cases, and that can't go on forever. So until we actually have a solution that's environmentally friendly, I wouldn't like to see a fee, personally, a fee for green waste at this point. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You wouldn't like to see a fee?
I wouldn't like to see a fee. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
So can we,
Zero it there.
if I may, can we then adjust the motion that the green waste, with the exception that the green waste will be zero or free?
As per 21819.
As per the 2018-19
And just confirming there's no significant consequence to the budget on that.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think
Should
it
not
would be. Thank you. And on page 55, under planning and development fees, NPR, if we could just expand on that, and I've spoken to Mr Wells about this yesterday, to no permit required,
Yes.
just so people know what it means.
Oh, okay.
And page 58, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up from the bottom, it says caravan living, in brackets on-site living. Again, I spoke to Mr Wells about this yesterday, about removing on-site living. That will be covered under our bylaw, and I think it just complicates it unnecessarily.
Excuse me, Mayor, which page is you
Page
referring to?
58.
4 lines up.
Thank you.
Caravan licence, remove on-site living, just leave it as caravan licence, because it'll be covered under our bylaw.
Yes.
You agree? You've sorted out the dogs,
Yep.
and that's all I have to say. Anybody else got any suggested changes? Okay, based on that, I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Going to do second part?
If I may?
Sure.
Yes. So I would move that council by absolute majority adopts the 2019-2020 rates resolution as presented in the agenda on the 25th of June 2019.
Councillor Browning. Open for discussion. Now, there was
Couple to
a
change.
couple to
there too.
change, which was less than reduction,
Yeah,
was it?
decreasing.
Oh, yeah, decreasing.
So page
Page
62.
63,
63 in S,
under S.
in item S,
63 in
decreasing the amount.
S, yep.
62 in E. Same thing.
62 in E.
And, oh no, that actually did increase. Didn't go down. Oh, marked the wrong way. So that one. And that looks like it.
And I'll just, at this point, because we're not having a lot of discussion about this again, we did discuss about having a look at the last revow, municipal-wide revow, having a look at how all this fits going forward for next year's rates and the different areas that different rates, different figures are applied to. So that's something we'll do over the next 12 months. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 7.3, review of council's advertising policy. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Breeny.
That council amends the council advertising policy in accordance with this report and determines a review date of no later than 2022.
Councillor Pike is second. Open for discussion. Again, this item's been workshopped to ensure full understanding of the document and the consequences of the document and why the document was suggested to be changed. So no changes, no further changes. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. $7.4 Dolphin Sands Ratepayers Association. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll have to move.
Oh, sorry, thanks, Councillor Breeny.
29.
Thank you. I'll move that council approves a grant of $990 to the Dolphin Sands Ratepayers Association, known as DSRA, to cover the cost of natural values report as required as part of the application for planning approval for a pedestrian cycle bridge over the Meredith River.
Someone to second, Councillor Arnold. Open for discussion.
Mayor, I wanted to ask a question. Do I have to discuss this particular one, or can I ask a general question that covers the lot?
Covers a lot of what?
all of these requests for funding. I just want to,
Well, if it relates to this particular matter, you can ask a question.
all right then, just this one?
Or
that
in
motion?
general, if it in general somehow relates to this particular matter, you can ask a question.
Thank you very much. I wanted to know when this budget, we've only got X amount left, when it finishes, please. 30th of June?
Yep.
Okay. Right, then that's fine. We've got enough money. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I
yeah,
needed to know.
okay, sure.
That's all I needed to know.
Yep. Councillor Churchill?
Mayor Wisby, I just wanted to make it clear that I'm open to the concept of a walking and cycling bridge over the Meredith River at Cambria. I've met with community members there and discussed it with them, and I know that there is good community support for this project. There's concerns about approving this funding in my mind, and those concerns relate to several issues. The land involved belongs to the Crown, and it is managed by Parks and Wildlife, as I understand it. I think that's correct. I stand corrected if that's not true. And there would be significant work to do with these people before we enter, or these organisations, before we enter into funding any part of this project. The land would potentially need to be purchased or leased, and planning in cooperation with Parks would need to be undertaken. If these initial negotiations all worked and everyone was in agreement with that, then that would be the time that I would see that reports such as the Natural Values Report would be due and processed in line with that. And also, I guess one of my major concerns at the moment is council's funding is unfortunately not terribly strong, and this isn't a small project. This is a major project by anyone's standards. I mean, I'm not qualified to make a guess as to the cost of this project, but it would be large. And we would need to, as a council, prioritise projects at the time when we do have that money. Now, I think it's fairly clear that a project like this is unlikely to be undertaken in the next 3 years. That'd be optimistic to think that. So I don't see that $1,000 being spent now is a responsible use of ratepayers' money. I understand the community's desire for these sorts of projects, and I support that. If the bridge was built there, I would ride my bike over that bridge, or I would walk that bridge. I'd love to have the amenity there to use, but I can't see it as a council priority at this time. I could not support what I would see as very poor use of ratepayers' money, even though it's a relatively small amount. Any amount at the moment is significant to us, and I won't be supporting that motion. Thank you.
I agree with what Rob's got to say.
That would be Councillor Churchill.
Mr.
Yeah.
Churchill, sorry. It seems to me that, that even though it's been talked about for a long time, I mean, I've been here 30 years and I think it's been talked about for quite a long time, that to come up with a plan that this is where it's to go, when really that should be a bigger process. Maybe there's a better site for it. And it will cost a lot of money to do a bridge of 60 metres, I think it said. Is that what they're saying? It's 60 metres. So
Yes.
I just think at the moment, with our financial position and and the time frame we've got, that even next year financially, we're not going to be really, have a lot of money, that it just seems a bit of a waste to start it now. Maybe it could be done, look at it again in 2 years' time or something like that.
So I read this and I assume that the pedestrian cycling bridge would become an asset of council. Is that the assumption there, that it would be an asset of council, I assume? My concern is the bridge would require ongoing maintenance, inspections and insurance cover that has the potential to equate to a significant cost to ratepayers, and a cost that's unknown at this stage. This suggestion hasn't been discussed with council at this point, and I'll get to that point in a moment as to what I'd prefer to see with these types of, I'll say it now. With these sorts of suggestions, and I think they're great, but I think we need to have a better, and we can probably agree on a way to do this and put it out in our next publication, that when people have an idea how to bring it to us, to bring it to a workshop, to have a discussion, because we don't want to deflate people,
Absolutely.
we don't want to take away that energy or that community feel.
Correct.
But we need to be realistic too in what we can achieve, understand it better and understand the processes involved in doing something like this. My next note here is, now that council have a budget for 1920 and an understanding that council's ability to fund capital works, both new and renewal, will be limited over the coming years, we need to be strategic in managing our current assets and any suggested new assets. As a consequence of this position, I would like the suggestion by the DSRA for a pedestrian cycling bridge to be deferred to a workshop where the project in principle can be discussed and before ratepayer funds are expended on any reports. So I'd actually like to invite the DSRA to a council workshop and have that discussion, and then we can see where it fits within everything else that's on the table, or what will be coming to the table. Because $1,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's somebody's full rates for the year. And probably as Councillor Churchill said, unfortunately $1,000 now is a lot of money to this council. Even though we've got quite a few $1 million, $1,000 is a lot. So I'd prefer to see it deferred to a workshop where we invite the DSRA along to have a conversation, and we start the process from that point without the need to expend money. Councillor Arnold?
I think there's two things though to be noted here, that this is money that's already budgeted. It's already in our community small grant budget, which Councillor Pike has alluded to. And for the initial planning to start around this, they need to have a natural values report done. So, yes, by all means, invite DSRA to a meeting, but the importance of the natural value report shouldn't be dismissed, because of that becomes a very significant part of their planning process.
Just to clarify, I'm not dismissing the importance of that, but it's the discussion with Crown and Parks. It's all those discussions. There's no point in having a report done here when they say you're not putting it there, you can only put it over here. For example, we could be actually doing a report in the wrong area. That's my concern. Yeah. Okay, so nothing further? Okay. So, yeah, I know I can put the motion, thank you. Just a question to you, or to you, if this doesn't go through, can we then move another motion to do it at a workshop? Can you move a second motion if this doesn't go through?
Yep, it's not actually contrary to, it's
Yeah.
just an addition to.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure on that. Thanks. Okay, I'll put the motion. So all those in favour? Councillor Arnold. Deputy Mayor Woods. Against? Councillor Churchill, Simons, Pike, Browning and Wisby. Motion's lost. I can't move a motion. Would anybody else like to move a motion? Councillor Churchill?
I'll put a motion, I'll have to word it, that DSRA and/or other community members could meet with council in future, near future, I guess, to workshop the concept of a walking, cycling bridge over the Meredith River at the river mouth.
Excellent.
Okay, Anthony?
Okay, somebody to second that, councillor Pike. Any comment?
It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm getting to
Oh,
it.
sorry. Hurry up, Ange.
We're all in a reader.
No pressure.
You'd be here for half an hour if it was me.
That's a positive alternative, yes.
Did you want me to read it out?
Yes, please.
So it's moved councillor Churchill, seconded councillor Pike, that DSRA could meet with council in the near future to workshop a concept
DSRA and community members?
and community members. And
Interested community members? or
interested
something?
community members, wasn't it?
That's fine, yes.
Could meet with council in the near future to workshop a concept of a walking, cycling bridge over the Meredith River mouth.
Excellent.
No further discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Could you, thank you. Councillor Brenny, the recommendation was turned into a motion and lost. Then there was another motion put that the matter be workshopped with the DSRA and interested community members on the principle of the project with council.
Good, thank you.
Carried unanimous. Okay, item 7.5, Freycinet Volunteer Marine Rescue VMR Association. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning?
I move that council approve a grant for $400 to the Freycinet Volunteer Marine Rescue VMR Association towards the cost of servicing 10 life jackets used by the VMR for rescue and training.
Somebody to second. Councillor Brenny. Comment? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.6, Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network. Motion, please. Unanimous.
Yes, I'll move that council approves a grant of $1,000 to the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network towards the cost of purchasing a further 6 live life medical live life medical alarms for community use.
Somebody to second. Councillor Churchill. Open for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to commend the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network for the work that they do within the community and also for the way they have presented this request.
And I'd like to follow up to say that I was out, I'm so committed, I was out at Rathbons Beach at
Did you do that?
7:27 a.m. Not enter the water. That's for the next mayor, not this one.
Wimp.
And I held towels in support of them going into the freezing water. About 50 people attended, so that was a great event, and I think they do great work.
They raised in excess of $800 for that
Not nudie one.
yeah, the Not Nudie run.
Yeah.
They raised in excess of $800 just for that short amount of time.
So it's a great
Through,
effort.
through you, Mayor, if I could just say that I was very disappointed, actually, that I wasn't asked to carry out the drumming on that morning, which I was quite looking forward to because that allowed me to keep out of the water at that time. But they said they found an alternative. But we were standby, waiting for the drumming.
Yes.
But
I think Mrs. Jill Thompson did the drumming.
okay,
Thoroughly enjoyed it,
very good.
and it was a very good event, very funny. So put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. 7.7 Spring Bay Studio and Gallery. Motion, please. Councillor Churchill.
The council approves the grant of $1,000 to the Spring Bay Studio and Gallery towards the cost of purchasing a pellet heater.
Somebody to second, please. Deputy Mayor Woods. Open for discussion. Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yes, I'd like to thank, if this goes through, I'd also like to thank Pellet Fires for the generous discount of $1,000 on this heater, which would be much more beneficial to the users of the gallery. So that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, I was just curious. I use gas heating in these. How is that piped into these if they have to move gas bottles? I just was curious. It says here because the women struggle to move the gas bottles.
They use small gas bottles for the current heating
small
system.
10 kilo ones, do they?
13.
Yeah.
They use it's like a barbecue heater, outdoor heater.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I understand the size gas bottle. I've got the big 45 kilo ones.
Yes.
That's all right. Thank you.
Okay, no further comment? Oh, Councillor Browning.
I'd just like to say, I mean, I'm sure it's a great community organisation, but I did do a check and they get a $1,500 rate reduction thing through council, as it is, and they've already had $1,000 this year, so that's $2,500 they've had. Plus this one, which will be $3,500. So we just need to remember maybe for next year that they've had quite a substantial amount of money.
And on that, I did have some notes written there, Councillor Browning, and on that, I think those sort of things should be in our report because we do need to be consistent in our approach. And there's only $20,000 in the bucket, and even though the whole $20,000 hasn't been spent, we still need to be consistent across the whole municipality. Maybe that's something we can also put in our information that we're sending out to get the word out to more community groups to utilise this fund where appropriate. So I don't know where that leaves everybody in respect to this matter, but it is, 15, 2.5, 3,500 of ratepayer remission or ratepayer funds being spent on one community group in 1 year. It's a difficult one. It is a community group, but it is also a lot of public money. Councillor Churchill?
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. Look, I think it'd be great if there are this and other organisations that are getting these, if I can describe them as perhaps hidden support. In other words, they're getting rate payments or rate reductions or something like that. If it can be, it possibly is transparently reported somewhere that I've missed, I don't know, but perhaps that really is necessary across the community, that we're all made aware of these things, and perhaps when these sorts of applications come up, that is all perhaps disclosed in the request somehow, so that this can be a much more transparent, because I can absolutely understand the discussion going on here, and I think that would be a very useful thing to do if that's practical to do.
It is.
you. With regards to the rates reduction that they get, there's three organisations that use that area. There's the community shed, the museum, and the Spring Bay. So they themselves, this particular group, the Spring Bay Studio, they are beneficiary to the rate reduction, but it's not wholly to them. So there's three organisations within that area that are beneficial to that rate. So that sort of brings it down a wee bit, but it's just to be acknowledged as well.
So we're still sitting, if we brought it down
Yeah.
to a third, we're still sitting at a $2,500. Councillor Brenny?
Mayor, maybe issues like this should be looked at from the point of view of looking at the criteria that we use, the application criteria for these loans. Maybe things like maximum amounts per year to a single organisation or something like that, and disclosure of these issues might be worthwhile. But at the same time, if there was an amount of 20,000 allocated for this year, and by my reckoning we're 1,000 or 2,000 short of that now, and there won't be any other claims this financial year, adequate funding was allowed for these sorts of, what would you call them, financial assistance. There are organisations out there who may not be aware of the benefits that they can gain from asking us for these loans, and maybe an effort be put into Council's website to make sure that they're more available, since people haven't asked for them, because I do know of a couple of organisations who'd be only too willing to put in applications for them, who haven't.
Yeah, and that's why we could go in our communication that's going out to everyone, in the coming weeks, making people aware of it. So we're back to the principal again, around 2,500.
Sorry.
You're right.
Mayor. It's probably worth noting that this organisation's put 1,450 in themselves. They seem to, if I remember rightly, was it a press
Yeah.
that they applied? And it was quite expensive, and they
Yeah, they
actually
put money.
provided a fair bit of their own funding, so
Yes.
they seem to be happy to contribute, so I assume they're quite solid, and I'm sure they've taken the time to put there's no saying you can't apply for the grant, so.
No, there's nothing in the rules to say that you can't go twice. And I think generally the maximum amount is 1,000, but there's no rule to say you can't have a second go at it. And possibly council might wish to allow this one to go through today, but going forward we amend the policy, and promote it better, because I think that money would be taken up very quickly across the whole municipality if more people knew about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to put the motion? Yes. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Thanks for that conversation, because it did need to be had. Item 8, motion tracking document. Any questions? I think Councillor Pike?
Yes, I note that the motion tracking document was last updated on the 19th of June, but some of these were held back in 2014, and I'm just wondering, shouldn't that date of 14 changed to that updated June? Do you understand what I'm saying? Why?
No.
So it's on there for 5 years? And it's still in progress? Well, I'm asking, why is it still in progress? Why
Because
hasn't it been
it's a
addressed?
solace development.
Right, so what are we going to do about that then? It would be my question.
It's still in progress.
Is it part of our next strategic plan then? Is it?
Well,
What's
it
in
says there,
progress mean?
the General Manager to affirm commitment to the project with all interested parties and progress negotiation with potential developers as relevant. So that's a motion that is basically ongoing until we say it's not ongoing, or...
So, okay, because that's been 8 months old now, that wording is 8 months old, and it was updated on the 19th of June, and it didn't come to me to think, so who updated it?
Can I just, I think I know where Councillor Pike's going with this. We can't change the dates, councillor Pike.
Right.
Yes, the motion tracking document was updated on the 19th of June.
Yes.
But the dates that you're referring to was the actual meeting date where the matter was discussed. So you can't change that.
No, that's fine. So why wasn't then this, when it was updated on the 19th of June, discussed with us?
No, it wasn't, no. That
I'm
part,
saying it wasn't. This is 8 months old. That's what I'm trying to say.
Why is it
hold on, hold on.
That I've been reading this last year. That same report has said that same thing. If you go back
Oh,
through
yeah.
this motion tracking
Yes.
document, you'll find that same sentence is 8 months old.
Yep, so very good read. Hold on, let me answer the
Yeah,
question,
sure.
please.
As I'm saying, I'm just explaining to them what the question they asked me. So,
November 2014, the matter was raised.
Yeah.
There was a motion put. Over the period, there's been a few adjustments to that, to where we're at with that. Where that sits at the moment is where it sits at the moment. The General Manager is working with Solace to forward the development.
right.
There is no update to that as at the 19th of June. It is what it was, as it is what it was 8 months ago that you're referring to,
Yeah. So when do we change it?
when something changes.
Yeah, we don't have any action.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it
I
correct,
find it strange.
through you, Mayor, it's not possible for us to change any of this until Solace changes things?
Yeah, unless we move a motion that takes that away.
Yeah.
It's a standing motion.
It's not.
That's how it works in local government. It's a standing motion.
If I may, Mayor, if I may, you know, it's updated on the 19th of June, which is when we sort of get this well, around this time that the agenda is prepared. That's when other motions that are still live are added to this to the motion tracking document.
Right.
So it's really got, it's just an ongoing report to council as to where these motions sit, and once they're complete, they drop off.
So what I was going to say is, at our next available workshop, we'll go through this document one by one and see where we're at. I know there's a couple of things there. There'll be some being discussed at that next workshop, and there'll be quite a few things dropping off in the near future, so, which is positive.
I have another question, Mayor.
Yep.
Sorry. Just coming down then, on the same page up the top there, the Tea Tree Rivulet Dam, council approval of GM to progress the project. When we got the briefing, if you look, when Daniel Smee, acting Daniel Smee was here, we put that totally on hold. Shouldn't that have changed there, not to progress the project? We only proceeded with, we had a motion and we only proceeded to go ahead with number one and not to proceed with number two at this stage. So why have we got to progress the project of Tea Tree Dam Rivulet approval?
Yeah, no, I understand your question.
Yeah.
The Tea Tree Dam Rivulet approval and construction relates to two parts.
That's right.
And-
Stage two.
Relates to two parts. We're moving on part one at the moment, stage one.
Yes.
And stage two is a requirement for us to do our best endeavours to do it. So they both still stay. There is a stage one and a stage two.
Yeah, well, what did we stop here when Daniel questioned us about signing? Would he go ahead and approve project one and sign the form? That's to get the water pipes we discussed this morning to go ahead. We put two on hold to come back to it, not to progress it. That's what I'm saying to you, Mayor. At that time, I'm sorry you did. You'll have to check the minutes.
No.
All right, okay.
So
I stand to be corrected.
as I said, there's two parts to the approval, and we still need to look into stage two. That's a requirement under the contract that's been signed, Councillor Pike.
I do understand that, but
Okay,
why
well, we're
did
not
we
going to
stop
continue
it?
to argue it here.
No,
We can discuss
I
it
wasn't
after the
arguing,
meeting.
I was debating.
Mayor, could I ask a question?
Sure.
In relation to page 87, there's a couple of motions in there at the 18th of February which I think probably are now null and void because I don't believe the reports were commissioned within 21 days. So there are
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a couple of motions that would go off this report. My question is in relation to the strategic plan. I know we were talking to somebody about the strategic plan, and I think I was part of the to be part of the process.
Yes.
But I've seen nothing further in relation to that strategic plan document, scope of works.
Yep, so was it yourself, councillor Woods, myself, was it you in this? So, Mr Flower
Yes.
has been engaged.
That's the last conversation that I had.
Yes, yep,
Yes.
and then he went away,
Right.
and when he gets back, he'll be coming to have a conversation with
He went
council.
away in that he went
Physically.
on leave?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
and
That's all I need to know.
Yep, so
Thank
when
you.
he comes back,
Yep, that's
that'll
fine.
be progressed, and I think it was like a 6-month process done, finished.
Fine, thank you.
So I agree, that's why I was saying about workshopping this, because there's quite a few things on here that can be removed and, okay, so,
Because those two reports that are listed there were not commissioned within that 21-day period. So
Yes.
that motion is now effectively null and void, is what we're saying.
yes,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
Okay, the council receives and notes the information contained within the motion tracking document. Number 9, questions without notice. Nothing? Okay, number 10, now we're going into confidential items, closed session. Do people in the public see that? Do they see that? Okay, so I should read that.
Yep.
Okay, so I declare the meeting closed to the public in order to, item 1, minutes from the closed session of the ordinary meeting of council held on the May 28th, 2019. Under Regulation 34 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, Statutory Rules 2015, number 38, Regulation 34.6, at the next closed meeting, the minutes of a closed meeting after any necessary corrections are to be confirmed as a true record by the council or council committee and signed by the chairperson of the closed meeting. And item 2, appointment of general manager. Under Regulation 15 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, Statutory Rules 2015, number 38, the meeting will be closed to the public according to Regulation 15.2A, personnel matters.
I'll move that council moves into closed session at 3:02 p.m.
Someone who second? Councillor Brini, all those in favour? Unanimous. And we'll have a 10-minute break, reconvene at 3:15.
Thank you for coming along, guys. Ladies.